Hello, and now that you've had a bit of a taste of Australia, we're going to zoom you into one of the more northern parts of Australia called Queensland. So let me introduce myself. My name's Hildebrandt. I work in the Department of Energy and Climate, and my team look after all of the really big inputs for the hydrogen industry. So looking at how we scale up the water, the energy, and move it around so that we can export this amazing commodity. So today I'll just give you a quick little overview around how we're scaling up this particular industry here in Queensland and some of the progress that we've made. You've already heard from Fortescue, Cameron from Fortescue, so that's a really big project in Queensland. We'll give you a bit of a snapshot of that as well. But just to set the scene, the Queensland government has spent approximately $300 million in scaling up this particular industry, and that's on top of the Renewable Energy Fund that we have, which is $4.5 billion Australian. And while the last panel was up on here, we've just had some amazing announcements come out from the federal government of Australia around how it's backing and supporting hydrogen. So jump on the federal government's website, the Australian government website, to read some of these amazing releases. But just to whet your appetite, we're talking about round two, so another $2 billion for Hydrogen Head Start, which will certainly help us kickstart the industry. The Guarantee of Origin scheme will also be supported in Queensland. We heard mentioned before the $2 per kilo tax credit, and that's actually going to be legislated as well. So that's a really interesting announcement that's come out. And in terms of innovation, which is why we're here on this particular stage, there will also be an innovation fund, so $1.7 billion that will be administered by our Australian federal government's Renewable Energy Agency. So we are, Queensland is actually Australia's most intensive area, so in terms of our carbon. So we really have a great opportunity and responsibility to decarbonise that. So to that end, we've got some pretty ambitious goals. You can see on the screen that we're looking to have 30% emissions reduction by 2030. And interestingly, we've already exceeded that. So not only are we on track, we're ahead of that schedule. So that's certainly a really good place to, it positions Queensland very well. We also have a Queensland Energy and Jobs Plan that you might have seen around the place as well, and I'll show you a link. You can download one of those. And that helps us to have a pathway to have 100% renewables and how we're going to phase out our coal-fired power stations. So that's a really important enabler for the hydrogen industry. And backing that, we're also establishing 2 pumped hydro systems throughout Queensland as well. So again, very big renewable energy and a very diverse source of that energy as well. So I think we all agree that hydrogen can play a really unique and important role in this particular way that we help to decarbonise our economy. But why do hydrogen in Queensland? Well, one of the things is that we sort of think it makes sense because of the enablers that we have. So you can see on the screen, we've got a really diverse renewable energy portfolio. We've got a couple of hydrogen hubs that have been established as well. So we have one up in North Queensland in Townsville. We also have another one down in Central Queensland. And today we also have the Mayor and CEO from the Gladstone Regional Council with us here representing on the Team Queensland. So feel free to wander around and have a chat with them as well on the stand. One of the other things that makes us really unique is that we have a lot of government-owned corporations. So government actually owns the water, the power, the ports, and this is one of our big strategic enablers in being able to scale up the industry. And of course, we've got plenty of land in Queensland. We have absolutely huge land parcels up there. Queensland is a big state, so that also makes doing business in Queensland really easy. So we have these quite unique propositions that we can offer investors looking to establish in Queensland. But if you really want to know what it's all about and what our actual potential is there in Queensland, you can download our guide. So it's called the Enabling Queensland's Hydrogen Production and Export Opportunities Report. In Queensland, we've nicknamed that our EQH2 report. So you can download one of those. And it really looks at all of those ports, and it looked at the constraints, the opportunities that we have across there. And it also did detailed assessments for 4 of those ports so that we can export that out. And what does that look like? It means that Queensland has, by 2040, about a $33 billion opportunity in the hydrogen space, and has the potential to produce around 100 million tonnes per annum as well. But let's face it. There are lots of different proponents and technology types and offtake types, and we know that hydrogen is an enabler. So this particular slide, in no particular order of importance, but at least showing the role that hydrogen can play. In Australia, transport emissions makes up about a fifth of the carbon emitted. So hydrogen is going to play a very key role in that transport sector, looking at sustainable aviation fuels in the shipping space when we partner it with methanol, and also in terms of heavy industry, so looking at high heat applications. We've got a couple of projects that we'll talk you through a little bit later as well. And of course, in heavy transport, Australia is a very large country and Queensland's a very large state in that country. So there's a real opportunity to use hydrogen to decarbonise a very extensive freight network as well. I think in terms of innovation, one of the things that we do really well is that because the government owns a lot of these big key inputs, we're able to really easily collaborate with proponents to be able to advance their projects. So we have a very innovative framework around how you can interact with us in terms of how your investment can be facilitated in Queensland. We also own a lot of the land in Queensland, so we transact across that land to help proponents get their projects up. And I think it's because of that in Queensland we have around 60 hydrogen projects at varying stages of development. You've heard from one today that's actually reached FID, and we'll talk you through a few others as well. Some very exciting progress in those projects. So you might have heard about Queensland or Australia in the news recently in terms of some of the progress that we're making in our projects. We've had Stanwell, one of the ones on the left-hand side of the screen that you can see. So CQH2, one of the largest and most advanced projects globally. So we're talking about just under 3 gigawatts of megawatts of electrolyzer, 3,000 megawatts of electrolyzer capacity when it's at full-scale production. So looking at around 800 tonnes per day when it's at full scale. And it's also about halfway through its FEED study. So not many projects are progressing, to that level and starting to come to levels of certainty. And interestingly, the proponents behind this particular hub, so Stanwell is leading this consortia to develop this particular project. They also lead the hydrogen hub in Gladstone. So that's where a number of projects are working together to advance the hydrogen economy for that whole region, which is really exciting as well. You can see on the screen, this is one of our government-owned corporations, so CS Energy. This particular one is looking at a 400 megawatt gas peaker, and it's going to be 35% hydrogen ready from day one, and they're looking to start construction on that in the next little while. But they'll also have a refueling and hydrogen mobility project that's attached to that one as well, because they've got a little hydrogen production facility to the side that will support that particular peaker. Moving back up into Gladstone, so the Rio Tinto and Sumitomo project. So that's another really innovative one where we're using hydrogen in places where it makes sense, where we can't. It's going to be very difficult to electrify. So hydrogen won't do everything, but it will play a really key role in helping decarbonise some of those hard to abate sectors, as I'm sure you're very familiar with. So this particular one will use hydrogen in the alumina refinery during their calcination process. So that's another really fantastic project happening in Queensland. I won't talk too much to the Green Energy Manufacturing Centre because you've no doubt just heard from Cameron from Fortescue, but that's a really exciting project as well. So it's one of the first commercial scale electrolyzer production facilities in Australia, and it's one of the largest ones globally at this stage, just opened last month. So another really big win for Queensland. And they're commencing work a bit later on this year for their 50 megawatt project as well to produce hydrogen, which will be a test train for their electrolyser facility. We've got projects scattered all throughout the state, so I'll take you back out west now. So this little project is out at Goondiwindi, near the border of New South Wales and Queensland. And this particular one, the local council has partnered with the Hydrogen Collective, and they're installing an electrolyser out there, and they will use the hydrogen from that system in their wastewater treatment plant. And then the oxygen for the wastewater treatment plant, and then they'll use the hydrogen in a mobility application as well. And that'll be available to local off-takers. And then heading back up the top to the north of the state, we've got the Edify Green Hydrogen Project. So Edify are leading the Townsville Hydrogen Hub. And they'll partner with Siemens Energy as a technology provider. And you can see on the screen that they've also received some funding under the high gate there as well. So that's another really big win for the state. The one area that I haven't touched on that we don't have some slides on today is Abbott Point, and that's going to be another very large-scale production area. It's a greenfield site, unlike a lot of the other sites that we've been talking about today. So that site is located in our state development areas, and we have a lot of projects centralising up there, looking to do large-scale ammonia exporting from the area there. So 2 hubs in Queensland, very well supported by both levels of government and also industry. One of the innovative things that we do is we hold industry reference groups about every quarter, sometimes a little bit earlier, depending on where projects are staging, so that we can keep industry in touch with all of the different government departments, and they hear firsthand about how each government department or water area or power area is actually making progress in their studies to help them finalise their investigations for their projects as well. I can't see the countdown. Oh, yes. Okay, very good. I've got a couple of minutes left. So one more plug for you. What would be really great is we can have a catch-up after this session, and then I'd like to keep the conversation going. Queensland is actually sponsoring the Australia Pacific version of this conference in Brisbane on the 12th and 13th of September. So we invite you to come along to see us in Australia. You'll be in Brisbane. We're headquartered here in Brisbane, so very happy to meet you, and also to take you on some of the site tours up to the 2 hub areas that we've been speaking about as well, and introduce you to some of the different parts of the supply chain that you might be interested in. So thank you very much for listening today. Scan away and register. And also I've got some business cards on me. If you'd like to download some of the reports that I've been speaking about, I'm very happy to help you be able to do that. Thanks for your attention. Enjoy the rest of the conference.